I'd done the first so-called one-person feminist show in London, and the work I tried to do that was to use the skills I'd learned at the Royal Academy schools of drawing and painting, and they were supposed to be ironic, and they were ironic, but the debate was between me and my friends and not between the wider public. So when it went out, of course, they appeared to be quite shocking. So this is one of them. This one is called Good Enough to Eat. And this one is Take One Lemon. It doesn't look very much different to something of any of the pop artists might have been doing at the time, but my thoughts were in a different place. I was hearing them talking about women and food all the time. So it was talking about women as recipes. The show was closed down. It was thought of being too pornographic. Now, they didn't mind the women in the sandwiches. What they did mind was why I altered the male body, because I gave Captain America breasts and nice underwear and things. When the gallery director said, well, what don't you like about it, this policeman? He said, well, it was the way she treated the men. We thought that was disgusting. When I went in the following day, I said, so I started gathering things together. And I said, where's the bunny boy? And nobody could find it. And then the PR guy said, I know who's got it. Ah, here he is. He was very suspicious because the people from the Bunny Club had turned up at the opening. I mean, obviously wanted to make something out of it. So I had to redraw it, but basically it's the same, except I made him older. It was such a horrible experience, actually, because there were guys knocking on the door all the time and cameras and things, and one photographer broke a window. And I remember my partner saying, you know, if they don't devalue the pound tomorrow, you're going to be on the front page of the Mirror. And I went, oh! I felt totally ill the whole night. They devalued the pound. Praise the Lord. You know, failure's a kind of success. So although that show was closed down by the police, it was kind of a success because it then meant that I had to think more deeply about things. I decided I would find out more about why these issues are important. So that's when I said, okay, I'm not going to do this for a while. I'm going to look at it in a documentary way. I'm going to do research, and I'm going to try and find a way to do it as art. In the 70s, I was quite comfortable about producing work which was seen as deeply political at the time, but I just saw it as part of life. Photography and documentation weren't seen as art. And of course we were criticised for producing this work, which was not just for decoration, but actually went more into the subject matter. There were three of us, three artists, Kay Hunt, myself and Mary Kelly. We had been kind of working together in many ways. We were all part of the Artists' Union. Kay was key to the whole thing. Unfortunately, she died not so long ago. And she said to us, you know, I would like to do something about the metal box industry where my family worked. First thing was to kind of explore it in a sort of quiet way. So I went into the factory and just with a little camera, just took photographs and slides so we could see what kind of things I might pick up from that. The equal pay legislation was brought in over a period, I think, of 5 years. We could see what was happening within the factory. There began to be changes in shifts. They actually were slipping the women's grades down. Rather than it raising their wages up, a lot of it was slipping down because they were grading them as lower. But one of the things that I realised as I was working through this was that the jobs were shifting overseas, or they were shifting to people's homes. So that meant that I then began to look at home workers. I met a woman called Helen Eady, and she was trying to recruit the home workers so that they could get the right rates of pay. And now this woman in particular, when we went to interview her, she was assembling tax forms. And immediately she said, "This is government work." Her house was full. Everywhere was full of these boxes. This woman was getting something like 4 pence an hour. Working with Helen Eady, she had connection with the politics of the time, and she fed it through. And there was a debate in Parliament about the rates of home workers working on government work, and they won. they got the right rates, which was fantastic.